Let's get to some of the roster additions, and obviously Pfister we heard from already, and Nate McLouth, another one that's going to play a big role off the bench. How big a role will both of these guys play, do you think, in the success of this team?
Yeah, Pfister's huge. I mean, that's the sort of when you talk to scouts or people from other teams or whatever, that's the one thing that people think really kind of separates the Nationals this year compared to last year is how good of a fourth starter Doug Pfister can be. I mean, he's a guy who over the past 3 years, if you go by WAR or some other stats, he could be like a top 10 pitcher in the majors over the last 3 years. And so, assuming he stays healthy, which he generally has been, he was on DL last year a little bit with a small thing, but he is a huge factor. McLouth is also a huge factor in sort of a more subtle way. He'll give them a much better option off the bench for all 3 outfield spots. He's a guy that can give even Span a day off and play center and lead off if you need him to. So they should be a lot more. They should have a lot more consistency in their options if Harper goes down for a month like he did last year, or if Worth misses 30 games like he did last year. They're much, they're well suited because they have McLouth, and also he kind of pairs well with Harrison too. If someone's out for a long period of time, that's a pretty good left-right platoon you have there. So I think that was a pretty slick pickup and fits his team really well.
Question about Danny Espinosa's role on the team. From early reports, it seems like Williams really likes him. Where do you see him fitting in this year?
I think for right now, he's a utility guy. I mean, they've said that he has a chance to win back a second base job. But I think that's just kind of something you say, and I don't blame him for saying that. But I mean, just look at what Rendon did last year and his potential. They really can't, you can't disregard that when you go for that. So I think he'll start the year as a utility guy. I guess it's not inconceivable that he would start in the minors if he has a bad spring or if they feel like the pieces fit better. But like you said, I think Williams does like him a lot. And really, he's the only guy who can play shortstop behind Desmond. So if Desmond gets hurt, if they want to give him a day off once every week or every 2 weeks, he's your guy there too. So
we talked last year about one of the big problems with the team, LeVar and Dan, being the bench. Do you guys really see more improvement based on some of the McLouth signing, maybe Espinosa off the bench?
I was actually going to ask you. Obviously for months and months we were talking about how bad the bench was last year, but I don't remember us talking about that in March. It's not like they went into the season.
Oh no, I wrote a story about how good their bench was last year.
That's right.
Because it seemed. I mean, their bench was awesome in 2012. They brought back the same guys, so that's a good point. I mean, there is sort of an inherent volatility when it comes to both your bench and your bullpen.
And McLouth, I didn't even realize until I was listening to John Feinstein, who's got his new book about minor league baseball. McLouth was out of the game basically just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, he's a good story, man. I mean, he had some really, really bad years with the Braves and Pirates. But last year he had 600 plate appearances and was an everyday player for an Orioles team that won 85, 86 games. So I mean, he sort of has I think he was with Norfolk in 2012 with the Orioles in AAA and really turned his career around. But yeah, I mean, he's more of a guy. Like last year, their bench players were more sort of guys who could sort of go between, maybe a good AAA player or a bench player. I feel like McLouth is more like maybe a starter or a good bench player.
And the Orioles didn't make the playoffs 2 years ago in 2012 without McLouth in that second half.
He had a great year and a half, on his belt. I mean, he wasn't great last year, but he was a very serviceable, very good everyday player, which makes him an excellent bench player. You would think.
And he's got speed, so he can also steal bases when he comes in and does play.